Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Sincerely So podcast. We have a very exciting guest joining us today. I'm so excited to hear her story and for you guys to hear it as well. She is a transformational life coach for women over 50, among so many other titles. So, Sue, thank you for joining us today.
Hey Lexi, great to talk to you today, the day before, well, Thanksgiving, I guess, but we know not sure when this will be out, but thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, we are recording this the day before Thanksgiving. Feeling very thankful today. This episode
Yeah.
will be out right after Christmas, actually, right
Nice.
after another holiday. So will be so much fun. But Sue, tell us a little bit about your journey and kind of what led you into coaching.
Yeah, thanks for asking. That's a great question, and sometimes I ask myself that as well. Sometimes on a daily basis.
Hmm.
But it really was I grew up, I'll kind of go back a little bit. I grew up in a household with a single, well, my parents stayed together for a period of time, which was not all that beneficial for the child. Um,
Hmm.
And then I chose to live with my mom, who was an alcoholic, and that really shaped a lot of my most of my life, especially in my younger impressionable years. And I had to figure a lot of things out for myself. So I was very experimental. I tried a lot of things, didn't always make the best decisions because I was self-reliant. It also made me fiercely independent. Um, and when you're a kid, not always so great, right? But then it kind of made me a little hard and a little um, resistant and very self-protective to the point where it was really hard to let people in. So I mean, it was difficult to figure things out for myself, but I did. And like I said, I didn't always make the best choices, but I just went ahead. I kept moving forward. And I went through some really dark phases in my life. I attempted suicide when I was around 19. And it wasn't that I wanted to die necessarily, but I just didn't know how to live and how to continue to move forward. So that I would love to say that that was a huge pivotal point in my life, but there were a lot of other pivots after that. Um, and I will say that the biggest common thread throughout my life were horses. And I loved them as a child. I loved being around them. I loved the way I felt around them, and I didn't really understand what it was about them that made me feel so safe and so supported, just by being in their presence. So that's kind of a thread that will continue to weave through the story. Um, but I had, as we were talking before we got on, because of my exploratory nature, and also probably undiagnosed ADHD, I've had a lot of experiences. Some of them were jobs, some of them were, just experiences for the sake of experiencing things. I was in retail for a number of years, but I also worked as a bartender and a DJ. Um, I went into tech later on in my life. I had the opportunity to move cross country and go to school. So lots of transformations. Oh, I've also driven in demolition derbies, and I was a roller derby ref for a while. So I'm not afraid to try new things, I guess is what it kind of comes down to. And because
Yeah.
of that, I don't feel like I've left anything behind. There's always something that you want to do or want to try. So is that enough to get you going?
Yeah. Sue, I was gonna say your story, even just when I read it before we had the opportunity to meet, I
Mhm.
was like, this is someone who knows that life is so short. Like, why not? Kind of lives
Yeah,
with the why not mentality. Like, why not try this opportunity? Why not gain this experience? Why not? Because, like you were saying, you can look back and, not feel any regrets. And I
yeah,
think sometimes women get stuck in the mindset and just people in general that, oh, I've pursued this career or I've set myself on this path. And if I go off of it, then I'm making a bad choice, even if they don't
right.
feel aligned with it anymore. And I feel like it's so important to realize you can feel aligned with something for a period of time, even if it's
Yeah.
just a couple months. And then that chapter's over and you're ready to move on. So, for your clients that you work with as they're going through these transformations, what kind of guidance do you give them to see it in more of a lighter way instead of something that's so scary?
Yeah, that's a great question. I love that you brought up the fact that you can go all in, even if it's for a week or a month or 2 months or 6 months or whatever. You don't
Yeah.
have to do it for the rest of your life. And like you said, I think women feel, and it's, societal pressure, it's, whatever kind of pressure it is, we don't want to look like failures. And there's the old air quotes again.
Hmm.
So that is a huge thing that we don't give ourselves permission to be kids again and be curious and try new things. I mean, when you're a kid, you're just think about a little baby starting to walk and they're just like staggering all over the place and bumping into things. And then they keep going though, right? And then eventually they get better
Yeah.
and better and better. And, we don't ever stop walking. Well, sometimes, uh,
Hmm.
but it's the same way when you're trying something new. If I think we shut that curiosity down so that we don't, because if you're doing something, you've been doing something for a long time, you have it as an identity, you get really good at it. If you try something new, guess what? You're going to be a beginner. You're going to go into an
Hmm.
entry level position. And I think when we get to a certain point in our life, we don't want to do that. So I work with people, to women specifically, to get them out of that mindset and to let them experiment and let them give themselves permission to try something new and how to try it in small steps. Because let's say they're sitting at their desk, whether they're a CEO or whatever the heck they're doing, they're sitting at their desk and in the back of their mind, they're like, I'd really like to do, whatever. If I wasn't sitting at this desk, I'd be doing, but it seems like such a huge thing. And we make these things in our mind like, well, if I have to do that, then I've got to go to school for 5 years and then I've got to. No, you don't. You can take like a little baby course or take a
Yeah.
weekend retreat or do something. And I love retreats because they get you out of your comfort zone and they allow you to be, especially if you're there and you're not with people that it gives you the freedom to be whoever you want to be or to just be yourself, which I think is the hardest thing for most of us to do, is to just be
Mhm.
ourselves because we don't know who that is anymore. So it's
Yeah.
it's 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 an incremental shift. For me, I'm just like all in, I get a flight lesson, like an introductory flight lesson. And I'm like, oh, this is great. I'm going to go get my pilot's license. And then I'm going to buy a plane. And then, you don't have to do
Hmm.
that level of crazy. Um, same thing with roller derby. Like, okay, you don't have to do that. But you can if you want to. The thing is to get those little pings inside your body. And that's where, it happens from within. You're going to feel like a little excitement or a little ping of something. You're like, that looks really cool. You see somebody trying something, you're like, that looks kind of cool. Maybe I'll give it a shot. And it it's just giving yourself permission to take that one little turtle step forward and then stop and then figure out, oh, do I really like this or not? Okay. Maybe not. Maybe I'll go off in this other direction. So, and
Yeah. I
yeah,
yeah,
go
I
ahead.
love I love that you said it's internal because I feel like it
Mm,
totally is. I had a guest one time and he called it an internal compass. And I'm
yeah.
like, that's a perfect description of it because it's literally like this feeling you get that you're drawn towards something like you were saying, like, oh, little pings, like, oh, I this looks interesting to me. I would love to try this out. And it's
Yeah.
so important to listen to those instead of dismissing it in your mind and being like, I could never do that, or this would take so long and I don't have the money, I don't have the time. Being like you said, baby steps. Maybe I could take a course. Maybe I could, go on a retreat, do all these little things to just get introduced to it. Because it's so important to remember that we all have different things that we're drawn towards for a reason. And
Yeah.
if we're drawn towards something, it has some sort of benefit in our life. Like I worked in the oil rig for a little bit,
Right
and
on.
yeah, not something I would ever thought I did, but I learned so much, and I definitely feel like it was a moment I needed to experience. And I'm sure you feel the same way about like derbying and roller derbying and working in tech. It's these things that you're like, maybe I wouldn't want to do it necessarily again, but I loved being in it and I loved what it did for my life.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I love that. That's I'm like, let me maybe
You're
let
like,
me get some more
wait.
information on that. I did something similar like during the pandemic. I'm in real estate as well, and things were really slow. And I went and drove a van for Amazon during the pandemic.
Love it.
And once again, it was the experience, and I got to
Yeah.
see like firsthand how people were dealing with this weird new normal. There's no traffic, and the most challenging thing I think was trying to find a bathroom, because I'm
Oh,
driving around the
yeah.
middle of nowhere and I'm like, nothing's open. I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, this will be fun." But it was interesting
Uh-huh.
because people had so little connection with each other that I felt like, the ice cream truck, I would pull down a street and people were like, ah, Amazon's here. It was like their connection to the world. It was really an interesting time to be doing something like that, and how different people were dealing with it. So that was one of those. That was like, one of my oil rig experiences, so to
Yeah, where
speak.
you're like, wait.
Like, whoo, that was interesting. Yeah,
Yeah, I feel like that is such a good point, though, how society kind of shifted in COVID and froze almost.
it
And I
did.
feel like, in a way, we're all still recovering from that social wise, from those year and a half that everything was pretty isolated. I
Yeah.
think a lot of people haven't fully gotten back to being okay with social interaction and trying new things and, going out of your comfort zone because for so long, we were pushed into our comfort zone. And so it feels even more scary.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's still a lot of, I call it rehumanization to
Yeah.
to happen, and people got a little unsocialized.
Hmm.
And it's a little scary still. And yeah, I won't get in another rat hole, but yeah, I do think that it was a really good social experiment for me to an experience for me to have. Glad I did it. I don't want to do it
Yeah.
forever though. That was stressful.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, I did it. Don't think I could have it be my
I'm good,
lifelong career, but
right?
I experienced and you mentioned the things that you were able to witness and kind
Yeah.
of learn from that experience. And I think so many people miss out on those or almost miss out on those type of opportunities just out of the fear of the what if. And so, how have you been able to kind of lean into the what if and see it as like a catalyst almost?
Yeah, the what if is a good thing. It's like if you don't have what if, it's like, well, what if I did this? Or what if I didn't do it?
Hmm.
What if I didn't do this thing? What if I didn't try this new thing? Would I feel bad? Would I feel like, because I do think we pass on a lot of things because we talk ourselves out of it. We just have this
Yeah.
internal loop, like put that tape in. Why can't I do it? Like, and you said a couple of things. I don't have time. I'm not young enough. I'm not old enough. I'm not, smart enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not whatever enough. And then we're like, yeah, I don't know. And then you're like, well, then you have those regrets. And
Yeah.
so I like to say, well, what if you did do that? What if you did try this new thing? And people, you have to stop and think, like, what if? So when you switch that the what if to what if I did do this, how does that feel? Once again, I'm going to go back to your body, um, because like I said, I work with horses a lot, and they're constantly taking in information and processing it because they're prey animals, and they need to know, am I safe? Is this person, thing, whatever, am I going to die, right? Do I need to get out of here? That fight or flight, they have to kind of get like
Yeah.
figure out what's going on, and they use all of their senses, so they're always in the moment. We're not.
Mhm.
We're all up in our heads. We forget that this thing that's carrying our stupid heads around actually has a function and is actually
Yeah.
really important. So when we can be more aligned with our mind and our body, and it's more of a holistic approach, and that's kind of a word that is overused, but it's true that if we say, well, what if I did try this? What if I did go out on a limb and try this new thing? How would that make me feel? And people start to understand and they start to feel, oh, what does that feel like to be excited again? What does it feel like to experience something new? And, I know from all of the things that I've done and the travels I've done, I did a 15-day bike ride in Vietnam. That was amazing. And if I had said, oh, it's scary, I'm not going over there, I don't know, if I had that mindset instead of like, well, let's see what happens,
Yeah.
and then you can really, we shut ourselves off to so many things. We shut ourselves off by judging other people, by judging certain things. We all do it. I'm not guilty of judgment, right? I wish I could say that I'm perfect, but I'm not. Sorry. Uh
Sorry about it.
sorry. Sorry, not sorry. But what we can do is we can catch ourselves like, am I, judging this situation? Am I judging that person? And is that judgment stopping me from moving forward or moving in a different direction? Yes. And then you can start asking yourselves questions. Why why does that not, why am I doing this? Why am I not doing that? So it's kind of just flipping those questions around. When you come up with those stories, I don't know if you've heard of Byron Katie, but
Hmm.
the work, right? Where it's so like somebody comes up with a story and you're like, is that true? and and then they're like, well, yes, because, and then it becomes another story. Well, is that true? Why is that true? Why is that and what would
Yeah.
happen if you didn't have that in your life, or if that wasn't true? And it flips everything around so that you have to look at things with different eyes. And I always tell people, try and look at things with fresh eyes. First of all, put your stupid phone down for 2 seconds and look around
Hmm.
you. What do you actually see? What are you taking in with your senses? There's a great five senses meditation that I don't know if you've done it, but it's like five things that you see, four things that you hear, two things that you smell, whatever it is, and all the way down. So the people actually have to be in the moment and be in their surroundings. We don't. We just keep going, we're just automatons. We just trot
Yeah.
along doing the same thing all the time.
Yeah, we're all stuck in autopilot almost,
Yeah.
so disconnected, like you were saying, from our mind and our body. And I love the mindset shift of what if I did? Because
Mm-hmm.
it's really as simple as that to kind of shift the way that you feel about it. If you're thinking about what if this went wrong and all the negative aspects of what
Yeah.
could happen with it, of course you're going to feel anxious. Of course you're going to be stressing about it and not want to do it. But if you're thinking of all the ways that it can go so well and go in your
Yeah.
favor and maybe some of the experiences you might have, it makes it so much less scary and you're able to feel excited like you were saying.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. What if it's what if this business was a complete success? What if I had all the money that I needed? What if and here,
Mhm.
here's a pro tip. You already have everything that you need. Just don't appreciate it. Uh,
Yeah,
once
exactly.
again, back to the theme of being grateful for things and focusing your energy on the things that you have and the beautiful relationships that you have and the everything. I mean, it's so cheesy, but it really does make having some sort of gratitude practice and sharing that. I mean, it definitely has a ripple effect. If you feel good about things and if you feel grateful for things and you hear somebody complaining about something, you can maybe help them flip it a little bit. And,
Hmm.
well, what about this situation is positive? And then if they
Yeah.
stop and think about it, then they're going to find something that you know and it's not like just being little Mary Sunshine looking for the silver lining all the time, but it's true, it does help to say, well, okay. And here's the other thing that I always think about: no matter how bad of a day I'm having, someone out there is having a worse day. and it's probably a lot worse than the day that I'm having.
Hmm.
So, pull up your big girl panties and just stop being complaining and don't stop
Yeah,
being
like it's stuck in
silly.
yeah, stop
Yeah.
being silly, stuck in a poor me mindset because
Yeah.
it's so true. I really think that the biggest competitor we have and the biggest block we have is literally ourselves and our own mindset.
Absolutely.
That's the one thing that's holding us back from who we want to be and what we want to experience is how we're viewing the world and how we're viewing ourselves
Yeah.
and letting ourselves be able to do things. So I love that you're like, buck up, because literally it's just your mindset that's holding you back and keeping you stuck in these negative feelings. Because once you flip it, you're not going to feel that way anymore. No matter how bad your day may be that day,
Yeah.
tomorrow, if you have the mindset of, tomorrow I can flip it,
Hmm.
like you were saying, there's people that have such a worse day than me right now. You're going to
Yeah.
be able to be like, you know what? I could power through. I'm almost done with the day.
Yeah. Or I'm just beginning the day. And I mean, I used to have a lot of anger and a lot of resentment and a lot of, you know, poor me and, everybody's got it better than I do and my life sucks and, all of that negativity and blah. And I mean, and the thing is, when you're in that mindset, if you do something as little as knock over your coffee in the morning, you can throw up your arms and be like, well, that's it. There goes my day. That's,
Yeah.
and it's like, it's just coffee and get a paper towel and wipe it up and laugh about it and just be like, well, guess I got to make another cup. And I mean, that's how I approach things now. And if I catch myself being like, then I was like, okay, just stop and take a deep breath.
Hmm.
Wipe up the coffee that's pouring down the cabinet walls or whatever. It's not the end of the world. Just it's not. And I think
Yeah.
that we all these weird trivial little things that piss us off and just make us anxious and angry and everything. And there's a lot of things out there now that are trivial and not so trivial,
Hmm.
you know. But here's the thing, we can only control what we can control. And the only thing, like you said, that we have any control over, and I don't even want to say that, is how we feel and how we present ourselves and how we treat each other.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing, how we treat ourselves first and foremost. Because if you don't feel good about yourself, then you're not going to be able to treat other people with any kindness or respect. So, first
Hmm.
of all, you have to be kind to yourself because people will say, well, it sounds easy when you put it that way, but then how do I do that? Well, start thinking about the language that you use with yourself. And, like, how do you talk to yourself? Do you say, oh, I'm stupid or I'm, whatever? Your words are the most damaging. Like you said, we're our own worst enemy. And if we can start appreciating what we have as an individual and the things that we can bring to the table and that that make us who we are, we have so much. We have so much to be grateful for in
Yeah.
ourselves. And then once you start appreciating that, it goes out. It goes, people are attracted to that. They're not attracted to, oh, poor me, I suck, I'm stupid, so
Absolutely. Yeah. I feel like you were saying, you can't fill anybody else's cup really until you filled your own and until you have that relationship with yourself. I think it's so important
yeah,
to be able to trust yourself and to be able to lift yourself up when needed. Like you were saying, if you're constantly beating yourself down, your mindset is going to be, of course, negative, because that's all that
yeah,
you're hearing from yourself. So the
yeah,
more that you're able to kind of be your own cheerleader and be your own best friend through these hard times, the more you'll be able to show up that way, like you were saying, and be that for other people when needed, because you'll be able to be secure in yourself in that way.
absolutely, absolutely. I give myself high fives all the time.
As you
Eh.
should, yeah. A little pat on the back sometimes.
Yeah, well, you have to, and you have to celebrate those little tiny things. And it sounds stupid, and I
Yeah.
know a lot of people say that, but it's true. And sometimes people have to hear things 100 times before they're like, "Oh, is that what you're talking about? Oh, now it makes
Hmm.
sense, right?" I think we just have to hear things over and over and over again and then try it once again.
Yeah.
Take a tiny little step. When you look in the mirror, don't say, oh my God, I turned 66 this year. And, sometimes I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh, shit, when did all this happen? But at the same time, it's like, hey, you know what? I'm here. I'm happy. I'm doing things I love. I'm talking to you right now. It's just so many so many great things. Or I could just sit there and go, oh, I'm old, I'm giving up, I'm going to go sit on the couch and eat bonbons.
Yeah, just finding gratitude in where you're at, what you're doing, all the
Yeah,
things that you have in your life. Absolutely.
yeah.
So, Sue, the last thing that I want to kind of pick your brain on is you have mentioned a little bit throughout the episode how you do incorporate horses into a lot of your coaching and how that's been just such a safe space for you, really your whole life.
Mhm.
And you've been able
Yeah.
to kind of turn back to it now and incorporate it. So, how do you use the horses and what benefits have you noticed from it?
Yeah, that is a great question. And when you work with horses, as I mentioned previously, they are prey animals. So they are constantly taking in information, and they're also herd animals. So they communicate with each other in very specific ways that gets the message across. And the other beautiful thing about horses is they don't judge and they don't hold on to things. They don't have a head full of stories, even though their heads are huge. They don't have a lot of stories that they plug in and like you know, last week, did you see that plastic bag that, flew out of the tree and almost killed me, and then they're not talking
Yeah.
about it for 6 months. So when people are working with horses, we all have a facade that we carry around and that way we present to the world. And horses don't see that. They don't care or see that you drove up in a $200,000 car. They don't see
Hmm.
or care that you're, wearing all designer clothes. Although they may be like, "Really, that outfit at the barn, are you crazy?" No, they don't think that. Uh, they don't make those judgments. What they care about is what's going on inside you. They can sense our all of our biorhythms, our heartbeat, and that's what they're going to connect with. They're going to connect heart to heart with us in their sphere of energy. And when we are in their energy sphere, we also have our own energy, and there's this connection that happens. And if the horse senses that the person is not being congruent, meaning that their outsides don't match their insides, what's really going on with them, the horse is going to be cautious and they may stay away or they may act a certain way. So when I'm working with a client who is in a one-on-one session, they're interacting with the horse, however they're interacting. It's not, I don't do any riding, it's all on the ground. And I'm watching the horse's behavior. And I'm also listening, like if the person is having an external dialogue, which a lot of times happens, that internal dialogue comes out. And a
Yeah.
lot of times the stuff that's going on in them that they haven't been dealing with gets transferred to said horse. Horse
Hmm.
is just being a horse. But people may say something like, the horse is bored with me, or the horse is ignoring me, or the horse is this, or the horse is that. And then that gives me the opportunity to say, why do you say that? Why do you think that about the horse? And it's interesting because they don't realize that that's how they feel. They feel people are ignoring them, or they feel like people don't, appreciate their boundaries, or whatever it is, it comes out because you've got 1,000 or 1,200 pound animal staring you in the face or
Hmm.
ignoring you completely. Uh, so it really does cut through all of those barriers and puts people back in the present moment and in their bodies and out of their heads, hopefully, right?
Yeah.
That's the idea. And it usually happens fairly quickly. Um, and also it just gives them a space, a supported container to experiment with things and try new things. If they've been trying to do something one way and they keep trying with the horse and trying, it's not working. Well, what's not working? This thing that I'm doing. Well, what else can you do? And so it
Hmm.
forces people out of their comfort zone. Well, I don't know. I could try something else, I guess, but it might look stupid. Okay. And
Yeah.
right. So it's a protected container. It's a nice space where people can actually experience the things that are going on in their real life, but in relationship with another being, a different species.
Hmm.
And it's how they show up for that relationship, right? Is how they show up anywhere in life.
Yeah.
So it's pretty fascinating, actually.
No, that's so cool. Like as you were explaining that, I'm like, that is really fascinating because I really do believe that a lot of animals are very in tune with
Hmm.
energy, and some of them are even very adept to like healing other people's energy if they're able to kind of identify it. So I love that you've been able to incorporate horses where they are so attuned to other people's energy and they're
Yeah,
almost able to kind of mirror it for them so that they see
absolutely.
kind of what's inside. And a lot of people dismiss horses as just, oh, they're just like, it's just a horse, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? And it's like, it's so much more than that. And I feel like once they have these experiences with you and your coaching, they're like, this horse just taught me more about myself than I even knew. So
yeah,
I love that you're able to kind of do that in your coaching and help so many people heal through that.
yeah. It's really beautiful. And I'm very grateful that I have the opportunity to do that, to work with the horses and let them just be themselves and have people recognize what a safe space it is
Yeah.
and open up some possibilities for them as well.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Sue, thank you so much for joining us today. I feel like
Thank you.
we really could keep this conversation going for hours. So I'm going to send all of my listeners over to you. I will have all the links for Sue in the description. So if the horse coaching really kind of piqued your interest, make
Mhm.
sure you guys go and check that out. Learn a little bit more about what Sue does because really she's amazing. All my women who are listening to this podcast, I really want to direct you guys over to Sue because, as you've heard throughout her episode, she's got some crazy mindset shifts that she's just waiting to teach you guys. So make sure to go and check her out.
And I also, one quick thing, I also have my
Yeah,
own podcast called Midlife Strategies for Badass Women. So that's another place to
love it.
kind of check that out as well. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, yes. As soon as you're done listening to this one, go head over and listen to Sue's. Absolutely. While you're already on the podcast grind, you might as
Perfect.
well. Yes, thank you so much, Sue. And I will see you guys next week.